In chapter 4, we come to the conclusion of the story of Ruth. Ruth is a pagan Moabite woman who's come to Bethlehem with her mother-in-law, and we've had a slowly growing romance, and we've gotten to see the character of Ruth and Boaz. Ruth has propositioned Boaz on the threshing floor, and he has agreed to be her kinsman redeemer. But there's one who outranks him in that privilege, and so someone else may redeem Ruth and Naomi, and therefore marry Ruth. Naomi and Ruth and our listeners wait impatiently to hear the outcome of Boaz's next steps. Reading from Ruth chapter 4. Meanwhile, Boaz went up to the town gate and sat down there just as the guardian redeemer he had mentioned came along. Boaz said, "Come over here, my friend, and sit down." So he went over and sat down. Boaz took 10 of the elders of the town and said, "Sit here." And they did so. Then he said to the guardian redeemer, "Naomi, who has come back from Moab, is selling the piece of land that belonged to our relative Elimelech. I thought I should bring the matter to your attention and suggest that you buy it in the presence of these seated here and in the presence of the elders of my people. If you will redeem it, do so. But if you will not, tell me, so I will know. For no one has the right to do it except you, and I am next in line." "I will redeem it," he said. Then Boaz said, "On the day you buy from Naomi, the land from Naomi, you also acquire Ruth the Moabite, the dead man's widow, in order to maintain the name of the dead with his property." At this time the guardian redeemer said, "Then I cannot redeem it, because I might endanger my own estate. You redeem it yourself. I cannot do it." This is a fascinating cultural scene. There's enough detail here that I suspect the storyteller thinks these activities are interesting also, and does not expect the listener to understand all of these ancient customs. The storyteller uses a device to avoid the friend's name. Hubbard translates this as Mr. So-and-so. In Hebrew, it's a rhyming phrase, Peloni Amoni. So essentially the text says that when Mr. So-and-so, or the unknown anonymous person, came up, then Boaz spoke to him. Notice the obvious status Boaz has in the community. Notice also how he deals with others in a friendly way, yet he is thoughtful and wise. There are some problems with this section. There are events happening here that we don't understand, and they probably were not even clear to the Hebrew listener of the days when Ruth was written. Some questions, some of them cultural. How did Boaz know the land is for sale? Does he have a right to sell the land? When did this happen? The readers should be a bit surprised by this revelation. We've not heard about this before. Why is the kinsman redeemer so caught off guard? Didn't he know about Ruth? And why does he back out? Why the 10 elders? Who is the dead man's widow? Why does Boaz add the phrase, "to maintain the name of the dead with his property"? There's a lot of thought that's gone into how Boaz handles this situation. Now, in earlier times in Israel, for the redemption and transfer of property to become final, one party took off his sandal and gave it to the other. This was the method of legalizing transactions in Israel. So the guardian redeemer said to Boaz, "Buy it yourself," and he removed his sandal. Then Boaz announced to the elders and all the people, "Today you are my witnesses. You are witnesses that I have bought from Naomi all the property of Elimelech, Kilion, and Mahlon. I have also acquired Ruth the Moabite, Mahlon's widow, as my wife, in order to maintain the name of the dead with his property, so that his name will not disappear from among his family or from his hometown. Today you are witnesses." Then the elders and all the people at the gate said, "We are witnesses. May the Lord make the woman who is coming into your house like Rachel and Leah, who together built up the family of Israel. May you have standing in Ephrathah and be famous in Bethlehem. Through the offspring the Lord gives you by this young woman, may your family be like that of Perez, whom Tamar bore to Judah." So what's the point about the sandal? Hubbard has a lot to say about the significance of feet in Near Eastern traditions. Apparently the sandal represents transferring the right of Goel or Redeemer. Even the author of this book thinks this is strange and says this happened in earlier times, so it's obviously not going on in his or her time. And if this was occurring in time where there was not much writing, instead of a written record of a transaction, you did something very public with witnesses so that the transaction would be remembered. In Deuteronomy 25, where levirate marriage is described, it includes an interesting statement about sandals. This is probably not levirate marriage, but is somewhat close. Why is Boaz conducting this sale? And what is his major interest in the transaction? Let's let our imaginations lead us here. What is the major interest of the audience in the transaction? Listen to how they respond. Do the witnesses recognize what the transaction is really about? Notice how they switch over to talking about, may this woman coming into your home. What do you know about the women mentioned in this passage? All right, Rachel, Leah, Tamar, Rahab has been mentioned at one point, or will be. We finally learn the name of Ruth's husband. What does the listing of Rachel, Leah, Tamar say about the status of this Moabite woman, Ruth? Our story is not yet over. Yes, the romantic couple have been matched, and in the culture of the day, they have been given rich blessings. But the story has one more surprise. While appearing to be a romance, the story of Ruth the Moabitess says something about the plans and character of God, and we will look at that next.